Dwayne Hoover got through lunch all right that day. He remembered now about Hawaiian Week. The ukuleles and so on were no longer mysterious. The pavement between his automobile agency and the new Holiday Inn was no longer a trampoline. He had a hamburger and french fries and a Coke at his newest burger chef, which was out on Crestview Avenue, across the street from where the new John F. Kennedy High School was going up. John F. Kennedy had never been in Midland City, but he was a president of the United States who was shot to death. Presidents of the country were often shot to death. The assassins were confused by some of the same bad chemicals which troubled Dwayne. Dwayne's waitress at the burger chef was a 17-year-old white girl named Patty Keene. Her hair was yellow, her eyes were blue. She was very old for a mammal. Most mammals were senile or dead by the time they were 17, but Patty was a sort of mammal which developed very slowly, so the body she rode around in was only now mature. She was a brand-new adult who was working in order to pay off the tremendous doctors and hospital bills her father had run up in the process of dying of cancer of the colon and then cancer of the everything. This was in a country where everybody was expected to pay his own bills for everything. And one of the most expensive things a person could do was to get sick. Patty Keene's father's sickness cost 10 times as much as all the trips to Hawaii, which Dwayne was going to give away at the end of Hawaiian Week. Dwayne appreciated Patty Keene's brand newness, even though he was not sexually attracted to women that young. She was like a new automobile, which hadn't even had its radio turned on yet. And Dwayne was reminded of a ditty his father used to sing sometimes when his father was drunk. It went like this. Roses are red and ready for plucking. You're 16 and ready for high school. Patty Keene was stupid on purpose, which was the case with most women in Midland City. The women all had big minds because they were big animals, but they did not use them much for this reason. Unusual ideas could make enemies, and the women, if they were going to achieve any sort of comfort and safety, needed all the friends they could get. So in the interest of survival, they trained themselves to be agreeing machines instead of thinking machines. All their minds had to do was to discover what other people were thinking, and then they thought that too. When Dwayne left Patty Keene and his burger chef, when he got into his demonstrator and drove away, Patty Keene was persuaded that she could make him happy with her young body, with her bravery and her cheerfulness. She wanted to cry about the lines in his face and the fact that his wife had eaten Drano and his dog had to fight all the time because it couldn't wag his tail, about the fact that his son was a homosexual. She knew all those things about Dwayne. Everybody knew those things about Dwayne. She gazed at the tower of radio station WMCY, which Dwayne Hoover owned. It was the tallest structure in Midland City. It was 8 times as tall as the tombstone of George Hickman Bannister. It had a red light on top of it to keep airplanes away. She thought about all the new and used cars Dwayne Hoover owned. Bunny Hoover, Dwayne's homosexual son, was dressing for work now. He was a piano player in the cocktail lounge of the new Holiday Inn. He was poor. He lived alone in a room without bath in the old Fairchild Hotel, which used to be fashionable. It was a flop house now in the most dangerous part of Midland City. Very soon, Bunny Hoover would be seriously injured by Dwayne, would soon share an ambulance with Kilgore Trout. Bunny was pale, the same unhealthy color of the blind fish that used to live in the bowels of Sacred Miracle Cave. Bunny avoided the sunshine, too, and the water from the taps of Midland City was becoming more poisonous every day. He ate very little. He prepared his own food in his room. The preparation was simple, since vegetables and fruits were all he ate, and he munched them raw. He not only did without dead meat, he did without living meat, too, without friends or lovers or pets. He had once been highly popular. When he was at Prairie Military Academy, for instance, the student body was unanimous in electing him cadet colonel, the highest rank possible in his senior year. The Galaxy in which Kilgore Trout was a passenger was on the interstate now, close to Midland City. It was creeping. It was trapped in rush-hour traffic from Barrytron and Western Electric and Prairie Mutual. Trout looked up from his reading, saw a billboard which said this, "Turn back, you have just passed Sacred Miracle Cave." So Sacred Miracle Cave had become a part of the past. As an old man, Trout would be asked by Dr. Thor Lembrig, the Secretary General of the United Nations, if he feared the future. He would give this reply, "Mr. Secretary General, it is the past which scares the bejesus out of me." Dwayne Hoover was only 4 miles away. He was sitting alone on a zebra-skin banquette in the cocktail lounge of the new Holiday Inn. It was dark in there, and quiet, too. The glare and uproar of rush-hour traffic on the interstate was blocked out by thick drapes of crimson velvet. On each table was a hurricane lamp with a candle inside, although the air was still. Bunny Hoover was controlling the piano. He had not looked up when his father came in. Neither had his father glanced in his direction. They had not exchanged greetings for many years. Bunny went on playing his white man's blues. They were slow and tinkling, with capricious silences here and there. Bunny's blues had some of the qualities of a music box, a tired music box. They tinkled, stopped, then reluctantly, torpidly, they managed a few tinkles more. Bunny's mother used to collect tinkling music boxes, among other things. "Give me a black and white and water," the waitress said. That particular drink wasn't for any ordinary person. That drink was for the person who created all of Dwayne's misery to date, who could kill him or make him a millionaire or send him back to prison or do whatever he damn pleased with Dwayne. That drink was for the author, that drink was for me. "This is a very bad book you're writing," I said to myself behind my dark glasses. "I know," I said. "You're afraid you'll kill yourself the way your mother did," I said. "I know," I said. I sat there in a cocktail lounge of my own invention, and I stared through my dark glasses at a white cocktail waitress of my own invention. I named her Bonnie McMahon. I had her bring Dwayne Hoover his customary drink, which was a House of Lords martini with a twist of lemon peel. She was a long-time acquaintance of Dwayne's. Her husband was a guard in the sexual offenders wing of the adult correctional institution. Bonnie had to work as a waitress because her husband lost all their money by investing it in a car wash in Shepherdstown. Dwayne had advised them not to do it. Here's how Dwayne knew her and her husband Ralph. They had bought 9 Pontiacs from him over the past 16 years. "We're a Pontiac family," they'd say. Bonnie made a joke now as she served him his martini. She made the same joke every time she served anybody a martini. "Breakfast of champions," she said. The expression breakfast of champions is a registered trademark of General Mills Incorporated for use on a breakfast cereal product. The use of the identical expression as the title for this book, as well as throughout the book, is not intended to indicate an association with or sponsorship by General Mills, nor is it intended to disparage their fine products. As for the future I might have predicted for the waitress, this was it. You will be swindled by termite exterminators and not even know it. You will buy steel-belted radial tires for the front wheels of your car. Your cat will be killed by a motorcyclist named Headley Thomas, and you will get another cat. Arthur, your brother in Atlanta, will find $11 in a taxicab. I might have told Bunny Hoover's fortune, too. Your father will become extremely ill, and you will respond so grotesquely that there will be talk of putting you in the booby hatch, too. You will stage scenes in the hospital waiting room, telling doctors and nurses that you are to blame for your father's disease. You will blame yourself for trying for so many years to kill him with hatred. You will redirect your hatred. You will hate your mom, and so on. And it was time now for me to have Rabo Karabekian, the minimalist painter, and Beatrice Kiesler, the novelist, say and do some stuff for the sake of this book. I did not want to spook them by staring at them as I worked their controls, so I pretended to be absorbed in drawing pictures on my tabletop with a damp fingertip. I made an invisible duplicate on my Formica tabletop of a painting by Rabo Karabekian entitled The Temptation of St. Anthony. My duplicate was a miniature of the real thing, and mine was not in color, but I had captured the picture's form and spirit, too. The original was 20 feet wide and 16 feet high. The field was Hawaiian avocado, a green wall paint manufactured by the O'Hare Paint and Varnish Company in Hellertown, Pennsylvania. The vertical stripe was day-glow orange reflecting tape. Like everybody else in the cocktail lounge, Karabekian was softening his brain with alcohol. This was a substance produced by a tiny creature called yeast. Yeast organisms ate sugar and excreted alcohol. They killed themselves by destroying their environment with yeast shit. Kilgore Trout once wrote a short story, which was a dialogue between 2 pieces of yeast. They were discussing the possible purposes of life as they ate sugar and suffocated in their own excrement. Because of their limited intelligence, they never came close to guessing that they were making champagne. So I had Beatrice Kiesler say to Rabo Karabekian there at the piano bar, This is a dreadful confession, but I don't even know who St. Anthony was. Who was he, and why should anybody have wanted to tempt him? I don't know, and I would hate to find out, said Karabekian. You have no use for truth, said Beatrice. You know what truth is, said Karabekian. It's something crazy my neighbor believes. If I want to make friends with him, I ask him what he believes. He tells me, and I say, yeah, ain't it the truth? I had no respect whatsoever for the creative works of either the painter or the novelist. I thought Karabekian, with his meaningless pictures, had entered into a conspiracy with billionaires to make the poor people feel stupid. I thought Beatrice Kiesler had joined hands with other old-fashioned storytellers to make people believe that life had leading characters, minor characters, significant details, insignificant details, that it had lessons to be learned, tests to be passed, and a beginning, a middle, and an end. Adapting to chaos there in the cocktail lounge, I now had Bonnie McMahon, who was exactly as important as anybody else in the universe, bring more yeast excrement to Beatrice Kiesler and Karabekian. Karabekian's drink was a beef-eater's dry martini with a twist of lemon peel, so Bonnie said to him, "Breakfast of champions." "That's what you said when you brought me my first martini," said Karabekian. "I say it every time I give anybody a martini," said Bonnie. "Doesn't that get tiresome?" said Karabekian. "Or maybe that's why people found cities and godforsaken places like this, so they can make the same jokes over and over again until the bright angel of death stops their mouths with ashes." "I just try to cheer people up," said Bonnie. "If that's a crime, I never heard about it till now. I'll stop saying it from now on. I beg your pardon. I did not mean to give offense." Bonnie detested Karabekian, but she was as sweet as pie to him. She had a policy of never showing her anger about anything there in the cocktail lounge. The largest part of her income by far came from tips, and the way to get big tips was to smile, smile, smile no matter what. Bonnie had only two goals in life now. She meant to recoup all the money her husband had lost in the car wash in Shepherdstown, and she ached to have steel-belted radial tires for the front wheels of her automobile. Her husband, meanwhile, was at home watching professional golfers on television and getting smashed on yeast excrement. Raybo Karabekian asked Bonnie McMahon to tell him something about the teenage girl on the cover of the program for the Festival of the Arts. This was the only internationally famous human being in Midland City. She was Mary Alice Miller, the women's 200-meter breaststroke champion of the world. She was only 15, said Bonnie. And Bonnie McMahon told Beatrice and Karabekian that Mary Alice's father, who was a member of the parole board out at Shepherdstown, had taught Mary Alice to swim when she was 8 months old, and that he had made her swim at least 4 hours a day, every day since she was 3. Raybo Karabekian thought this over, and then he said loudly so a lot of people could hear him, "What kind of a man would turn his daughter into an outboard motor?" I had created Raybo Karabekian, and he was, in my opinion, a vain and weak and trashy man, no artist at all. But it is Raybo Karabekian who has made me the serene earthling that I am this day. Listen. "What kind of a man would turn his daughter into an outboard motor?" he said to Bonnie McMahon. Bonnie McMahon blew up. This was the first time she had blown up since she had come to work in the cocktail lounge. Her voice became as unpleasant as the noise of a bandsaw cutting galvanized tin. It was loud, too. Oh, yeah, she said. Everybody froze. Bunny Hoover stopped playing the piano. Nobody wanted to miss a word. "You don't think much of Mary Alice Miller?" she said. "Well, we don't think much of your painting. I've seen better pictures done by a 5-year-old. Karabekian slid off his bar stool so he could face all those enemies standing up. He certainly surprised me. I expected him to retreat in a hail of olives, maraschino cherries, and lemon rinds. He was majestic up there. "I now give you my word of honor," he said, "that the picture your city has just bought shows everything about life which truly matters, with nothing left out. It is a picture of the awareness of every animal. It is the immaterial core of every animal, the I am to which all messages are sent. It is all that is alive in any of us, in a mouse, in a deer, in a cocktail waitress. It is unwavering and pure, no matter what preposterous adventure may befall us. A sacred picture of St. Anthony alone is one vertical, unwavering